Making the best matcha latte is easier than you might think. You just need to follow a few simple steps. In this video, we're going to show you the ingredients that go into making the best matcha latte, the tools you need, and the steps you need to follow. We'll also show you some tips that you can use to make your matcha latte even better. Let's get started. So the best matcha latte starts with the best matcha latte powder. For this, you can use the premium matcha latte powder from Mr. Masuda. This tea is grown in the region of Shizuoka without the use of pesticides or chemicals. When it comes to making the best matcha latte, it's important that you go for a pesticide-free source, as you will be consuming the entire leaf, along with everything that's inside the leaf. There's another reason why the best matcha latte is made using this matcha powder. The tea has a strong flavor that you can taste through the milk and sugar. High-quality, ceremonial-grade matcha goes through a careful production process in order to achieve a naturally smooth and rich flavor profile. This makes it great for drinking plain, but the flavor can get lost when you mix it with milk and sugar. So now that we have the best matcha latte powder, let's move on and talk about some of the tools you can use. There are a few things you'll want to have handy if you want to make the best matcha latte. Let's go through the 4 most important tools. First, we have the sifter. The matcha sifter is something you should definitely have if you want to make the best latte. This will help you break up the clumps that form in the matcha and get a more even consistency in the latte. Next, we have the matcha whisk. This is the most important tool when it comes to making the best matcha latte. The matcha whisk is carved out of a single piece of bamboo, and it's the perfect tool for getting that foam on top of the matcha. This is mostly used for making bowls of matcha tea, but it can also be a useful tool when it comes to making matcha lattes at home. Next, we have the matcha spoon. The matcha spoon, or chashaku, is specifically designed for scooping matcha out of a tin. It has a more vertical shape to it, so you can easily dip it into deep containers. It also works well as a measurement tool. 2 heaping spoonfuls of matcha is the perfect amount for a bowl of matcha tea or for a matcha latte. Finally, we have the matcha bowl. The matcha bowl, or chawan, is another nice tool to have around. This is where all the magic happens. The chawan, or handmade clay tea bowl, has a wider base, making it easier to mix up your matcha tea and make the best matcha lattes. So now that we've talked about the matcha that you can use and the tools that you can use, let's talk about a few tips you can use. First, always sift. If you're trying to make the best matcha latte, you'll want to avoid clumps. These clumps form naturally as the matcha powder is exposed to the humidity in the air. They won't mix into the water, and they'll give your matcha a gritty, inconsistent texture. What you'll want to do is position a sifter on top of the matcha bowl and sift in 2 grams of matcha powder. This will break up the clumps, and at the end you should have a layer of finely sifted matcha powder at the bottom of the bowl. Next, make sure that you mix well. If you want to make the best matcha latte possible, you'll need to mix the matcha well. This means making sure that the matcha powder and water are combined evenly. This distribution leads to a more consistent drinking experience, so each sip has the same strength. Next, you'll want to limit the amount of water you use. The worst thing that you'll want to avoid is watering down your matcha latte. The best matcha lattes have a concentrated flavor profile and a rich consistency. Adding too much water ruins both of these. Instead of making a full bowl of matcha for your latte, just make a matcha paste. Instead of using ice cubes, freeze matcha in an ice cube tray to use matcha ice cubes. Little tricks like this will help you make the best matcha latte. Finally, keep it cold or hot. The best matcha latte should be either cold or hot, but never in the middle. If you're making an iced matcha latte, use refrigerated milk, ice cubes, and even cold matcha paste. If you're making a warm matcha latte, you should use steamed milk and warm matcha paste. If you use room temperature ingredients, the matcha latte won't be either refreshing or comforting. So now that we've covered the broad strokes when it comes to making the best matcha latte, let's walk you through the process step by step. Pay attention to each of the finer details, as it will contribute to a better consistency and flavor. Step 1. Sift the matcha powder. To start off, position the sifter on top of the bowl and add 2 grams or 1 teaspoon of matcha powder. Using the spoon, you can push the matcha powder through the sifter. Once you have a finely sifted layer of matcha powder at the bottom of the bowl, you are ready to continue to the next step. Step 2. Make the paste. Add in about 2 tablespoons of water and mix the matcha powder and water together until you get a nice smooth paste. For this, you can use your chasen tea whisk. This gives you another opportunity to smooth out the clumps. When you use very little water like this, it's easy to see the clumps and smooth them out so they don't end up in the final latte. Step 3. Add in the milk. Once you have a smooth matcha paste with no clumps, you can add in 1 cup of milk. Remember, you should use either chilled milk for an iced matcha latte or heated milk for a warm matcha latte. Once the milk has been added, you can mix in the paste with either your matcha whisk or with a milk frother. The mixture should be one consistent color, which signifies that it's completely combined. Step 4. Stir in the sweetener. This is your opportunity to stir in the sweetener of your choice. 1 teaspoon of sugar, honey, maple syrup, or agave all work well. but it's important to reduce the sweetener over time so you get used to the natural flavors of the matcha. After a while, you'll start to crave these natural matcha flavors and you won't want to add sweetener to the latte. The best matcha latte is one that showcases the natural flavors of the matcha powder but balances out any bitterness. Step 5. Serving the best matcha latte. You have now created the best matcha latte and it's time to serve it. This is where you can start playing around with things like toppings, garnishes, and food pairings. There are always ways to improve your recipe. So when it comes to making the best matcha latte, there are only a few simple things that you need to consider. Make sure you follow the step-by-step guide and you should have the best matcha latte in no time. If you want to find the matcha latte powder, you can find it on our website, neoteas.com. This was a matcha we discovered when we met with Mr. Masuda during our trip to Shizuoka. Not only is it affordable, but it also has a great flavor to it and it will work perfectly in your matcha lattes. You can also find our other favorite matcha teas that we found during our travels around Japan. We offer free shipping worldwide, so you can try the tea no matter where you are. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you like it, we would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to see more tea videos in the future. Until then, we'll see you next time.